Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, and my husband, Shane.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we are podcasting. Are you measuring your mic distance?
Yes.
We are podcasting this morning, and it has been a week. We have all the kids' activities going on. I just got back from Fetch Nashville, which is an amazing conference. I don't want to talk too much about it, though. I don't want you to get upset you didn't get to go. But we are in the throes of end-of-year school graduation events. There's a pool party this afternoon. Are you coming to that?
No. I am not doing that.
I feel like we're pretty good about splitting some of these duties, but some things like end of year kid pool party is definitely more my wheelhouse than yours.
Yeah.
So things have been crazy. Things have also been a little crazy at the vet hospital. For those of you that are new to the podcast, we are veterinary hospital owners in Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. I'm also an emergency veterinarian, speaker, and we do a podcast together. And Shane is an entrepreneur all around business guy. So he's taught me a lot and he teaches you guys on this podcast. This is based off of questions that you submit to us. So we definitely need those on our social media pages at Questions with Crocker. You also can leave reviews on Apple or Spotify or just feedback in general if you want to. We have actually a fair amount of reviews.
Do we?
Yeah, and they're decent too.
I don't really read that stuff.
So
I kind of want to go off of online stuff.
What do you mean? You want a social media break?
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason for this or?
Scotty Scheffler being arrested. But outside of that, just too much negativity. It's driving me crazy.
Okay, so number one, just give people, who is Scotty Scheffler for people who do not follow golf?
If people don't follow Scotty Scheffler, they should be listening to our podcast.
Okay, ignore him saying that.
He's the number one golfer in the world. He's a local Dallas guy, super good dude, great golfer, and he got arrested.
And he got arrested for a little incident at the PGA
Championship, yes.
Championship. But it's all going to work out, right?
I don't know. You assume, but anytime attorneys are involved, things can happen.
I will agree. There's phases of social media time where I get really tired of it or am overwhelmed, especially as someone who creates and puts out content. It feels very heavy. I feel like I've kind of moved past that where if I don't feel like posting, I just don't post for a couple days. Or when I was really trying to grow and go, I would put 2-3 posts out a day and it was really exhausting. But I will say, if you feel like things are a lot more negative on your social media, it's because you've curated that. Because a lot of people, you see more of what you are watching more consistently or liking, or so if it's more negative, that's because you've been watching things that are more negative.
So there's AI generated in that. I don't like anything. I don't touch any buttons.
But you watch it longer.
That's what I'm saying. But if you watch something one time, it shouldn't fill your feed with 47 of those, right? I mean,
it depends on how long you watch it. It literally calculates, okay, you watch this video 3 seconds longer than you normally watch things when you're scrolling. And so you'll start to see more of that. But that's also why you can use the not interested button if you're seeing a lot of something and you're over it.
Again, I don't touch the buttons.
Well, I need to teach you at least how to do the not interested button. Do you feel like just seeing the negativity is making you a little more down and negative? Is that why? Or are you just...
Yeah, I think anytime, I think life's full of how your thoughts impact how your day goes. So if you're filled with like negative thoughts, I think the impact of that is you start seeing stuff in a more negative view.
I will say that's probably true, especially because we always tell our kids that the 5 people around you that you spend the most time with are kind of an indicator of what type of person you are. So if you have a lot of positive people around you versus negative people, or you just have people that are kind and good friends versus people that are maybe not that way, it definitely does affect things overall. So I can see that. I mean, I highly encourage you to take a break.
See, like watching Seinfeld outtakes, love it. That puts me in a good mood. But then you get like 47 political things that follow that. It's just too much.
It's that time of year.
Yeah.
I'll teach you the not interested button. And if you don't want to...
I'm not interested in touching any button.
It's so crazy to me that there's people like you that are on social media that literally don't engage in any way. Like, how do you not like something that you're like laughing out loud about? Like, that's just so weird to me.
I don't know.
You're just.
I think I'm going to punt everything beside YouTube.
Okay, but you still have to watch your wife and support her.
Mm-hmm.
You're even going to take a break from me? Social media.
There may be a correlation here.
That's painful. That's very painful. I have been putting out some surgery videos, and I know you dislike those a lot. So, okay, well, I do encourage anybody who is feeling like their social media is trending more negative or is affecting them. You know, a lot of people might see things and think, oh, I wish I was doing that, or the competition. There's a big group of vets that are over in Africa right now, and they're doing things with wildlife, and it looks amazing. And of course, you feel a little bit of FOMO, but I do think that if that's what you need to do, I support you. Social media break. If you've been trying to follow Shane with all his posts and interactions, I'm sorry, you're going to be missing out for a couple days. Okay, so speaking of surgery videos, I brought that up just a minute ago. We actually had quite a few cases come in recently that were interesting, and I did an entropion, I did a prolapsed third eyelid surgery. Do you know what that is?
Well, third eyelid didn't sound good, so I'm assuming you're removing an eyelid that shouldn't be there.
No, so that's actually interesting. So you have your two main eyelids, on the top and bottom of your eyes, right?
Oh, I assume that was just one.
You have a gland that creates your tears that sits right on the inside of your eye, and they call it the third eyelid because it's the area that comes across your eye also. You just don't often see it, and you see it a lot in animals. You'll see it be more prominent. It'll be more prominent if cats are having abdominal pain, but it's called the third eyelid, okay? So some dogs, especially that are brachycephalics or certain breeds, their third eyelid will be sticking out, and it'll be like this fleshy pink thing sticking out, and it can cause them to have dry eye issues. It can get irritated. It can get ulcerated because that is tissue supposed to stay in your eye. So you have to go in surgically, and it's really cool, actually. You remove the top layer of skin that's kind of holding that gland in place, and then you basically, kind of like plastic surgery, you just tighten the pocket up. So you remove a wedge of skin, and then you take the edges and bring them close together and tighten it up. Uh-oh. Is our dog about to throw up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Baker.
Pause the video for a throw-up break.
That's our life right now. They say nothing gets you up faster than a dog throwing up, but I feel like we both just sat here and watched him for a second because he's a lab and he eats everything, and it seems like he throws up on and off all the time. So anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, I was telling you about my surgery that I've been doing. So I haven't done this surgery in quite a while, but I used to do it all the time. And so it was just fun to do a surgery I hadn't done. And this cute little dog who had big, bulgy, pink, fleshy things on her eyes did the surgery, looked beautiful afterwards. And on follow-up, they said she was doing great. So. Pretty
sure that's how my doctor described my LASIK surgery.
That is not at all how your doctor. The LASIK is in the eye, and this is, oh my gosh, I can't. Do not take anatomy tips from Shane Crocker because he does not know what he's talking about right now. We also did a cat leg amputation the other day. And for surgeries like that, I like to use a medication called Zorbium. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so we like to give stronger pain meds for different types of procedures. Obviously, leg amputation is a really big one. And so a lot of those are injectable, and it's hard to give them once they go home. So Zorbium is a medication that you actually can put on the skin of a cat, kind of like where you put the flea protection. And it is a 3-day, longer lasting pain medication. And so it's really funny though. It makes the cats pretty high. And so she was just sitting there, and their pupils are huge. It's kind of like a meme looking thing. And she's just sitting there, and she's just kind of waving back and forth. And after surgery, she just had surgery and had her leg removed, and she's just purring and looking around and just in la la land. The only bad thing is some cats on Zorbium, kind of like people, you never know how they're going to react, will actually act crazy. And they owners will call and say they're zipping around the house or acting wild because they feel so good. So it's a balance. You want pain control with a big surgery, but I always tell owners, you kind of want them to be quiet, calm. Yeah. I don't want them to hurt necessarily, but I don't want to make it where they can't feel anything and then they injure the incision or they do something else to it.
Did that cat go home?
That cat did go home. It was a rescue that brought it in, and the fosters were adopting it. It was a foster fail, and it was the cutest thing ever. So she did great. I actually thought about keeping her because
No.
I want a clinic cat again eventually. And she was like going to be a cute 3-legged. She was very sweet. So we get enough rescue cats that come through there that I do surgery on that I feel like eventually we're going to find the right cat for our clinic. What's your vision of a clinic cat?
Not to have one.
Why are you anti-clinic cat?
Because someone has to go up and take care of the cat on holidays and weekends and other things.
So you just...
It seems like an unnecessary responsibility.
So I don't, honestly, cats are like pretty chill. And we have people on our team that like to go up there that live really close and take care of the cat. So if you're worried about us having to do it, I don't think that's a thing. But obviously I would check with the team before we got another clinic cat and make sure everyone was on board. But we're going to have a cat room. So they'll have a place that they can like live, hang. They can roam the hospital at night.
Sounds like a really good use of our funds.
Why are you such a Dr. W right now? I need you to get off social media. I need you to not be so down and negative right now. Okay, so speaking of being negative, let's talk about finance.
That's probably a big part of it too.
That was a good segue. So someone asked me at the Fetch Nashville conference, and people are so sweet, right? Because they are following our journey on social media or otherwise. And a lot of people were asking, well, how's the hospital doing? How's the renovation doing? And I appreciate them asking, but I literally was like, I'm just putting money out. We're just writing checks right now because it definitely feels like that's all we're doing. So
that's not a feeling. That's an actual.
It's an accurate thing. No, well, I always hear you say, when I say I feel this way, you say, well, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the facts, right? So you're saying my feeling is accurate.
Very accurate, yes.
Based on facts. So let's talk a little bit about the renovation for a second first. Is there anything so far that you're like, I love that we did this. This has been really, really great.
I think all of it's been great. I mean, we're starting to use the treatment area now.
It's so much bigger.
Yeah, you can tell everybody's kind of in the same area and you can kind of see what's going on, and I don't know. That part feels good. There's
more natural light.
The lab pharmacy is getting used.
Yeah. We're more spread out, but in the same area, so we can talk and communicate better. I love the fact that we have just more treatment tables in general. We used to have one, and now we have 2 tables and a wet table and another table in surgery. So
not in surgery.
Well, in the surgery prep area. Sorry, in the surgery suite. And then I also like just that it's clean, natural light, new flooring. Like it just feels fresh, which is really, 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 really nice. And then when I walk through the area we're not using yet, but I see 5 exam rooms. That makes me so, so happy because working with 2 veterinarians and 2 exam rooms, we can't have them see appointments at the same time. We're just so limited on what we do. So I'm very excited about the additional exam rooms, but it is costing a lot of money. And it was so funny the other day. I remember that someone asked you, oh, well, when is the plumbing inspector supposed to be here? When is the plumber supposed to be here? And you were like, last Wednesday.
Yeah, that's accurate as well.
So it's a little bit of an issue to get people out to do the work, right?
Yes.
Is that one of your main sources of frustration right now? Or,
I mean, if we had to rank them, I would say the cost associated with everything is probably number 1.
Okay. Getting
people out there is probably number 2. And quality of work, once you get them out there, is probably number 3.
It is hard because, we decided instead of having like a contractor for the whole thing, we have a contractor we've worked with in the past who is coming in for like the bigger parts of it. But then some of the smaller things that because we've renovated houses before, feel like we can handle, we're doing on our own. But I agree with you, depending on who is coming in and doing the work, it's a little interesting what we end up with. So,
yeah.
And then last night, you got a phone call that there was water coming up out of the pipe in the floor.
The floor drain in the new bathroom we just put
brand new
installed.
bathroom. Yeah, with new flooring and everything. So what happened there?
Well, there was concerns that I eliminated a grinder pump that shouldn't have been eliminated. So it was either going to be that or we had tied into an old drain that over the last 30 years could have potentially been stopped up with hair or whatever.
Yeah.
So luckily it looks like it's just the drain that was stopped up.
So they were able to snake it or do whatever they do. I know I said something about snaking the drain and your daughter's like, what? What does that even mean? I'm like, that's a saying. She's like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, they got in a clog within probably 10 minutes. But it was a little iffy there for a while if this was going to be a $15,000 screw up or a $300 screw up.
Is it bad that at this point when I hear 15,000, I'm like, well, at least it's not.
We're pot committed at this point. There's no turn. And I feel like everybody knows that and they've got you.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we can do that, but this is the cost.
And that really is the point that we're at. You get to the point, and I feel like everything project we've ever done, where
our house is that way.
You're literally like, I don't care what it costs. I just need it to get done. Like, we need to be in this new area. We need to be finished working. So we've had to financially be a little creative with some things because with interest rates right now, we're not trying to take out an additional bank loan because the interest rates are crazy. So you've really been working hard to try to keep us within the budget and something that we
budget. I'm trying to grow money trees in the back right now. I'm doing whatever I can at this point.
Are you saying like budget is not even a word anymore? Yeah. Oh my gosh. But it's looking great. It's going on. We're focusing on the positive. We're going to retrain your brain. Let's practice some gratitude for a minute. Let's say 3 things that we are grateful for and excited about. You want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. I'm grateful that we are going to have more room and can bring on more team members to support our team and see more pets.
I was going to just go with more space to see more pets. I don't want more team members.
Because team members cost money. We're focusing on the positive.
That was positive.
We're focusing on positive. Okay. I am grateful that you did the rock on the outside of the building and now we don't have rodent issues or old building issues like we had before.
Yeah. Yes. I'm excited about the rock and the new roof, both of which were unforeseen expenses, but they were really good.
Positive.
That was positive.
We're
positive
focusing on the positive. I am really grateful that we are going to have a area for our team. Right now, they don't have a area to eat. They don't have an area to put their stuff. And so our old lobby is going to turn into the team area. We're going to have a staff meeting today. We just have it in treatment. So I'm really excited to have a place that they can go sit. They can decompress a little bit. They can have their stuff. I really want to put a walking treadmill in there, some things for mental health. So I'm excited about that, even though it's not something like the clients will use. You have one more.
I'm excited about the outdoor covered area. That's going to be really nice.
The underneath, yes. Like our event center that we're going to have. Yes.
I didn't know we had an official name for it. I was going to call it my putting green area, but event center works
We're putting turf in there, so you're going to just add a putting green. You could do that. I would stamp that if that would keep your mental health in the positive. I'm all about the putting green on the turfed area. Okay, see, don't you feel a little bit better?
Absolutely.
You got to retrain your brain. Your brain is elastic. You can rewire those neurons to be more positive. So that's what we did. Okay, so we know that we're doing the renovation. It's costing a lot of money. It is stressful, but it's going to be worth it. But financially, what are you looking at when you're trying to determine how we pay for things, what we do? Because you were talking to me about our P&L still looks good, but P&L versus cash flow are very different concepts to understand as a business.
Yeah, I think there's 3 reports that you should monitor as a business owner. Most people probably look at 2, which is your balance sheet. Your balance sheet shows on a specific date kind of the overall health of the business, how much cash you have in the bank, how many receivables you have coming in, how much you owe in debt, how much positive or negative equity you have in the business. The profit and loss statement is probably what most people look at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows how much money you're making, how much money's coming in the door, how much profit you're making at the end of the month, end of the quarter, year, whatever.
And where it's going to. Like
to some extent, it shows where it's going. So some of the operating expenses.
Mm-hmm.
The P&L is basically based on accounting principles, meaning you add back amortization, depreciation, things like that inside of the P&L. So it does show from an accounting standpoint if you're profitable. And there's two ways to look at it, from an accrual basis and a cash basis. Most small businesses are cash-based business, meaning you're taxed on money come in, how much money went out. Here's how much cash I have at the end of the day. That's how much tax I pay. Some business pay tax on accrual basis, meaning you can book revenues even though you didn't get the money yet. You can book expenses even though you haven't paid those expenses yet. And what's left over is what you pay taxes on.
So would the expenses be something like inventory sitting on the shelf?
Correct.
Or inventory you ordered, or like, so things that you haven't actually had somebody pay for yet? But
yeah, or you might be getting a bonus out your team,
Mm-hmm.
And you go ahead and book that bonus even though you haven't paid that bonus out. So different things like that. The third report that you should probably look at, and a lot of people don't, is your statement of cash flows. And I think that's true in this time for us because it's a true representation of cash that's coming in, where all that cash is being spent, and how much cash you have at the end of the day. So right now, our profit and loss may show, hey, you're doing really well, you're profitable, but our cash flow statement is showing all your cash that's coming in has gone out the door plus more,
Mm-hmm.
because your statement of cash flows accounts for your financing activities, how much you're paying in interest, how much you're paying towards your loans. It's taking some of those accounting principles out and just looking at true cash.
So do you feel like that is the more accurate representation of a business, or?
I think to accurately monitor the health of your business, you need to monitor all three reports, and they all have different values to it. So as an example, we know that we're running a profitable business, but we need to understand, do we have enough cash to finish up the activities that we have to do this renovation? So you need to monitor basically all three reports to really understand the health of the business, and they all tell a different story, or potentially tell the same story a different way. If that makes sense.
It does. I mean, I agree with you on the fact that I don't worry about paying our team, right? Like, we are making enough money to pay our team. But what you're saying is any profit that we would be seeing on the P&L is actually not a profit right now because it's being put back into the renovation. Yeah,
we're reinvesting that back into the business, and it just shows that cash going back out. So in a P&L, you're not going to see that part of it because that's going to capital improvement. That's not the P&L.
But it's going to be worth it.
Hopefully. But most people, most people probably don't monitor the statement of cash flows. They're probably, the only time they deal with it is if they go to the bank. If they go to the bank and say, look, I want to do a renovation, and the bank says, well, send me your last 2 years of balance sheets, your last 2 years of income statements, and your last 2 years of cash flow statements. So they'll request that because they're looking to see how you manage cash. They don't want to invest in a company that historically has not managed cash very well. So
is that also why sometimes you'll have like veterinarians that are trying to sell their practice and they think it's really profitable because of the P&L, but when you actually dive into the numbers, it's not as profitable? Or is that not the same thing?
It can be the same thing, especially if they're highly leveraged, meaning maybe it's somebody that has done a roll up and has bought 2 or 3 different hospitals, and the P&L may show, they've got a decent, profit and loss statement, meaning they manage their cost of goods really well. They keep your employee, ratios in line.
Yeah.
But maybe they're highly leveraged and they're at high interest rates, and that cash is going out the door like crazy.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to buy them out, they'd probably have to look at how do we consolidate all this, do a different type of loan to manage the cash flow better.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense, especially in certain areas where the cost of living is much higher.
Crazy.
The real estate is crazy expensive. And if you're leasing and you're just losing that money, throwing that money to somebody, that also would be seen as like a loss versus Do you look at the fact that we own the real estate too and pay ourselves as part of that cash flow?
So that'll
group?
show up on your P&L.
Okay.
So that'll show on our P&L, it shows rent because that we're paying rent to a separate entity that owns the real estate.
But we are the entity.
So instead of paying Joe Blow, we pay, ourselves and another LLC for the real estate.
Okay. I kind of think it makes sense. Is that a report you could run? Like, okay, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, I've never looked at my cash flow. Mm-hmm. Is that something like if you use QuickBooks or if you use PIMS, that you can run a cash
it won't work in your PIMS, but if you use any kind of accounting software, your QuickBooks, which is probably what majority of people use, that's part of the basic reports that you can run a statement of cash flows. If you don't have that, you can build a statement of cash flows, but that would be a very not fun task. So most people, I'm sure, are using QuickBooks or a version of.
Or do you think like a CPA would do that?
Yeah, most CPAs
if you have an accountant.
Yeah, most CPAs, if you're not using QuickBooks yourself, they're probably plugging all this data into QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And managing it out of there anyways, so they can run that statement.
So you're paying somebody to use QuickBooks essentially. Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
I will say QuickBooks is not the easiest thing to understand if you don't have a finance mind. So it would make sense why someone would say it's better for me to invest and have somebody else look at this.
We talked about this the other day. It may be worth us looking at hiring a bookkeeper that does only veterinary practices, because the way the system's set up is you have your practice management software that manages the practice itself. You're doing all your invoicing, all your estimates, everything out of that system. You have to then get that data and push it into your financial software. QuickBooks as an example. Those aren't integrated at all. It's a manual pull process. Or push.
Yeah.
I take that out in basically two categories, where a bookkeeper that does veterinary specific businesses will use chart of accounts set up by HaHa or whoever sets those up that are very standard accounts. And they'll manually move all that data across. So then you have a better representation of your true lab revenues and your true lab expenses.
Yeah, they break it down even further.
And that's what your chart of accounts does. All your chart of accounts is a specific account for each individual activity. AHA is basically said, here's a great chart of accounts. If you follow this, then you can follow the ratios associated with it and really understand the health of your business.
And where you can tweak things and
Correct.
What you need to do. They do have that because they have, I think it's called the Profit Solver. And I know when we went to the PSI symposium, they were talking about it. And that's what they do is they integrate everything. And they said that they can do it all if you just give them access to your PIMS. They can do it. You don't have to worry about any sort of manual upload yourself. And then even though the cost is not cheap to use them, their statement is that you will make that money back based off of like the information they give you and really dialing in a little bit further to your practice and like what you could do to be more profitable. So I don't know, might be something worth looking into.
Yeah, the only, I think out of the gate, I wanted to understand really what we had. And the best way for me to do that is to kind of keep my finger on the pulse, is to be in the numbers on a weekly basis.
Right.
I think we're to a point now where I'd probably prefer to have somebody take all that data and put it into QuickBooks in the appropriate chart of accounts. And then I could just manage the reports, going forward, and use that data to pull different handles on things we need to do. So that's something we'll probably look at. Again, it's an additional expense, but maybe worth it.
Well, you have enough balls that you're juggling, so it's probably worth it to relieve your stress a little bit and help you to be able to function and handle all the different things you have going on a little bit better. So I'm all about outsourcing things that we think someone else could do better, that in the end will benefit our practice. You're the one that just said they have the AHA standards that dial in more. So I just more specifically, I guess, help us out. So I think that was good information. It was a lot of business talk, but hopefully it makes sense. And if anyone ever has any questions, you guys can definitely follow up with us at Questions with Crocker. You can DM us or you can email us. Again, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you enjoy hearing about veterinary medicine, behind the scenes, about being practice owners, make sure to give us a follow and make sure to leave a review on Apple or Spotify. We really, really appreciate you guys being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.